There we go. I've got you. I was on mute. Let me try this again. So, good morning, everyone. It's Kate Richberg. It is Wednesday, November 2nd, and here we are for Beadshop Live. I'm using my SF MoMA mug today, and I'm super excited to share everything I know about silk threads. I have a little bit of a frog in my throat, so that's why I'm having tea this morning. So you have to forgive me. Sorry, I know drinking on camera sounds a little grim, so I'm going to try and keep it to a minimum. Okay, so if you got your newsletters yesterday, you know that we launched a brand new product. And it's a product that's kind of old school from when we used to have the brick and mortar here in Palo Alto at Beadshop. I used to carry it in my store at Beadissimo in San Francisco. And this is kind of an old school product that I know you're going to want to add to your jewelry making tools. So let's get right to it. Let me show you. Let me not keep you in suspense. What we're going to do today is I'm going to talk to you all about how to use silk for stringing and knotting. Now, I'm not going to do a lot of knotting demos for you, though I'll do a few. We've got a bunch of um, broadcasts about that. Janice and I have done it. We're going to be doing it again later on this month. But I wanted to show you some of the new stuff that we got in because, as you know, Beadshop this year, we're coming to the close of our 40th year in business. And since online since 1996, which seems crazy, like back in the dark ages when you got a URL and had to use Dreamweaver to build your site and stuff like that. Remember that? Well, we have so many years of experience using the silk thread. And finally, the bead retreat really cemented it for me. So many people were super into using this silk thread by the spool at the bead retreat that I'm like, you know what? We cannot delay any longer. So we've got this going on. So let me show you how we're going to use it. So let me solo this. Hopefully, oh, sorry, it's a little messy there. There we go. Let's move that over. So let me show you what I've got. Now, you know that usually when we knot beads, we use a couple of different things. We have been using our friend, whoops, uh-oh. Sorry about that. My camera, sorry, just fell out of the holder. I got a larger phone, so hopefully it's in there. Sorry, earthquake. No, I'm good. I'm just a little under the weather. I'm fine. I'm feeling, if I sound bad, I sound much worse than I am. Don't worry. Nothing can stop me from coming at you live with silk. So don't worry. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Yeah, sorry about that. There we go. I'm not sure where the rest of those beads went, but I think I still have enough for the demo. Um, Always fun going live, right? So, okay, back to what we were doing. So you know that we have been stringing with this griffin silk, right? Like this. And um I love it. I love using it. It's the silk with needle. I have this sample right here that we did. Remember Janice's piece she did a couple of weeks ago? I have it here with the pearls and the strawberry quartz. Here I did it with the pearls and some um, lapis and some um, smoky quartz here, right? And we did this with the silk with needle, like this. right? Which we love using. But the silk on the spools really kind of changed the game up. So, when we've been doing some stringing with beads and some knotting, sometimes we use Ceylon and we use it doubled, right? We use it doubled over a needle. But now we've got the silk, and I use silk a lot in my own personal Kate Richburg jewelry designs because stringing is one of the things that I love to do, pearl knotting on silk. And I have a piece here out of my personal collection that I want to show you. Now, this is a piece that I made last year. As you know, every year around my birthday, if you follow my social, every year around my birthday, you can, I make myself something, right? Something as a little gift for me. So last year rather, this year I made myself a bag. Last year I made myself a pearl necklace that I knotted. And you can see it has a bunch of my own little treasures in it here. But can you see how the pearls are knotted on a darker silk thread? Okay. And that silk thread that I used was this very same silk right here. Now we've got two more colors coming in. They've been back ordered. We have a plum, which is like a purple, and like a soft green, which is kind of like a peridot. We use that a lot. I use that green an awful lot, actually. So let me show you how this works. And some of you have been knotting with the Ceylon or have been knotting with silk. It used to be that this silk on the spool came in about 1 billion different colors, and I'm not exaggerating there. But over the years, as knotting pearls became maybe a little less popular or whatever, or due to cost factors or whatever it was, the silk became a little rarer. So finally, we resourced some silk, which I'm very pleased about, and we have we decided to launch two different sizes. Now the size F that we had here. Oh, and Kim, thank you. I don't see Geeta either. I didn't get a message from her, so she'll probably pop on. But go ahead and throw those links over on Facebook if you don't mind. That would be great. Janice is over on YouTube chatting over there. So thank you, you guys, for putting those links in. So we've got these, and we've got some purple, and we've got some green. The size F really is the universal size. It's equivalent to about a size 4. And can you see there's that F right there? That one's a little light. There we go. Right there on the spool. It's a little hard to see. There we go. Okay. This is a size 2, that number there. This was, I think, a size 6 that I used here. So it's great to have kind of both in your jewelry making kit so you have some options. So we've got these, and of course we've got the ecru, this gray, which I also use a lot of, this white, which, you guys, dyes beautifully. The silk thread dyes beautifully. So if you want a color that you don't have, right, you could easily dye this with RIT dye or any type of dyes that you like. I've also been known to color it with a marker, but that's just me. And then I set it with an iron. This is also the F. It comes like this. It comes wrapped up like that. So we have it in black. We'll have two more as soon as they're back in. Okay. We also launched a variety of needles, and it's a needle pretty much for your every need. We've got heavy, we've got medium, we've got fine, and we've got extra fine. Now, sometimes for those tiny pearls, tiny gemstones, the little 3 millimeter gemstone rondelles, stuff like that, extra fine is great. Okay. Um, this fine and this medium are the two that I use the most. And then this heavy, if you have beads that have larger holes, this is good for it. Janet is asking when we might have the new silk in. It's saying that it should be in sometime at the end of November. So hopefully by the beginning of December, we'll have it up for you. And the colors are so delicious, which is probably why they're sold out. They're really good. But we're going to be keeping these in stock as long as we can get them. Okay. We also carried another size. We carried a size E, which is a little bit thinner. Okay. In case you're using like really skinny white pearls and stuff, or rice pearls rather. But the thing about silk thread, right, which doesn't happen as much with Ceylon, silk is really buoyant. So when you put it through a pearl or a bead, it slims like way down. So you can get um, this thread. You may think, oh, it's not going to fit, it's too thick. But you need to try it out, and I think you'll be surprised at, um, at how great they are. So let me show you. I'm going to use these medium needles because I think that's the size I want to use. So I'm going to take them out of that package, and I thought I had these open already, but I'll go ahead and open them up. They come in packs of 10. And I'm going to take one out. Now I'm just going to do a few little testers here for you, right? So I'm going to use a color that has a contrast. I think I'm going to use this blue. What a surprise. So let me put all of these, I'm going to stand them up like little tin soldiers up here, and we're going to use the blue. Now, when I do my knotting, I like to see the knots in my beads, right? So, um, I like to make my knots maybe larger than other people like them. And I also like to use a thread that contrasts. That's just me, right? A good all-purpose thread, like if you're stringing pearls, let's say like white pearls, restoring pearls, I would either use this ecru or I would wash my hands frequently and use the white. Okay. My go-to really is this ecru. It lends a nice look to the pearl and it's not so stark. But you decide what works for you. Okay. Also, this gray. I love this color here. And especially a contrast with like these. I'm going to try these guys here. I want to show you how to knot these also. Okay. This gray thread would be great with that. But I'm going to start out. I've got some 6mm pearls. I grabbed these actually out of my stash, but we have a bunch of freshwater pearls and we've got a bunch of freshwater pearls coming. Okay. So what I do always before I start to string my project is I've got to test everything out. Okay. And see how it looks. Janice just shared this in both the groups, but I'm going to put it up on the thing here. Um, Janice has been stringing pearls forever, probably longer than I've been alive. But the secret is if you want your pearls to look whiter, go with the white. If you want cream, go with the ecru. That's great advice, JP. Great advice. So I'm going to take this size F. I'm going to open it up. And I'm just going to do a short length because this is going to be my tester length. So maybe this is about doubled over. This board is about 14 inches, about 28 inches. Okay. So I'm going to clip this off. Oh, and Gita just joined us. The time change happens earlier in Europe. So Gita, welcome. I'm glad to see you. I knew you'd be here eventually. No worries. We're going to put our thread through that flexible eye needle right there. And that needle's going to flex on down. Now we also launched, we've got, pardon me, some end tips as well, some new ones. These are kind of a nice clamshell end tip. So we've got more coming. We've got a whole bunch of sterling and gold fill that are going to be launched. And we also have some antique versions coming as well, which are going to be great. So let me show you what this end tip looks like. Instead of a little hook, and you've seen us have these with the hooks before, these have a little loop at the end. Can you see that there? So I'm going to show you how this goes on. Okay, so I'm going to tie a knot at the end. I've put my needle through and I'm using this doubled. Okay. And I'm going to tie a knot and I'm going to go through that loop once and then twice at the end and tighten. Now I'm just going to come up through this little clamshell. This clamshell is going to eventually connect to whatever clasp I choose. Okay, like that. Now I'm going to come in. I want to make sure that nothing is twisted, which it is. Untwist, please. I give that a big tug to make sure that knot's going to hold. Okay. And I'm going to come in and I'm not going to do it at this moment, but I'll use my GS Hypo and I'll glue that knot. Okay. Now I'm ready to string. I'll come in and I'll close this up later. All right. I'm just going to do this. So let's test these out. These are a 6mm, kind of a flattish pearl on one end, rounded on the other. And see how that just pulls right on. And see how the eye of the needle has kind of, a little hard for you to see there, but how it's kind of collapsed or flexed down to go through that hole. And can you see how easy that bead slides across that thread? Now let me show you, even before I tie the knot, let's take a look at the E. Okay, I'm going to get ready and I'm going to show you the difference in the knot size. Now the size E does not come in all these colors because the F is really the most popular. But as I said, we're carrying it in white and in black. If I can get this unstuck here. The white silk thread you can always dye if you want to. You can dye using Kool-Aid or regular fabric dye, or you can tea dye it or coffee dye it in there. And then I just set it with a hot iron. So there's the E, okay? And I always double the silk because it's much easier to tie a knot, number one. Traditionally, we always use this silk doubled. It gives you a nice, cleaner, more smooth knot. And also with this silk on the needle, let me show you this end here. The silk with the needle is also doubled. It's just a pre-twisted thread. Can you see that? How it's doubled here, right? I would, so it is actually doubled even though it looks like a single thread. Okay. This silk, I don't really stretch a lot before I work with it. The actual knotting process does stretch this silk out, but if you do like to stretch your silk, you can. See with the E, I'm tying my knot. I go through once. I'm going to go through one more time. So this is 3 instead of 2, and I'm going to put an end tip on it. Now, I usually for pearls, even if they're white, I go with the off-white because I feel like the white thread gets kind of dingy looking kind of fast. right? So that's what I do. And then Janice says here, remember not to tie a knot between your end tip and your first pearl. And the reason we don't add that knot by the end tip is that the spot that the knot touches on the metal, it's going to kind of rub against that metal, and that will be a wear point on your piece. Okay, so you can see here, and I'll put some glue. Whoops. See how that jumped over? See, I'm glad I tested it. So three knots with this size end tip with this size hole in size E doesn't work out. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to test it again, and I'm going to tie 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I put the thread through the loop 4 times rather than trying to tie 4 knots one on top of the other. If you do that, you're just going to have a little string of knots that aren't going to be tight. But see how that one knot comes in, and it's a nice fatter knot here. And let's check it. I have a feeling, yep. So see how I've done 2 of these, and I'm like, well, this really isn't working. So you could change your end tip, but what if you're at home and you're like, Kate, this is all I've got. I don't have another end tip. What I'll do is I'm going to look for a size 11 seed bead, which I know I have here somewhere. It'll just take me, you could use an 8, but I really want an 11. So let me rustle around in my seed beads here. Here we go. I've got a size 11 seed bead right here. Doesn't matter what color it is because it's going to be hidden. Okay. Janice has a pearl knotting handout. Cindy, you read my mind. I've got some size 11 seed beads right here. You can go right to beadshop.com and get Janice's original pearl knotting handout that she used in the store. Super informative. So I'm going to put on that bead right there to act as a stopper. There's my knot. And here's my end tip. And can you see the cup of that end tip is large enough? It's kind of hard to see because that pearl knot, that seed bead is light. But trust me, it's in there. Okay, so that will work. All right. So let me knot a few with this F, and then I'm going to knot a few with the E. We're also going to test those ovals because I've been wanting to do it. So why not do it live on air, right? Then I'm going to show you what to use, like if we were going to do some check glass beads that had really big holes. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of ways. So I'm not going to go into the pearl knotting too much in this video. We've got a lot, and we've got another one scheduled. But the way that I knot, the way that Emily knots, the way that Janice knots, it's all very different. And I'm sure the way that you knot is a little bit different. But I'm going to come in, I'm going to tie my loop. I'm going to do the knotting tweezer method for this first one. Pull those strands together as if they were one. Push that knot right up against that bead. Don't tighten it, and then push the knot up with the tweezers and back with my hand towards me. Okay, let me do a couple more. I'm going to pre-string a few. Knotting pearls, do a few little practice runs before you do it on your actual piece. Okay, I always say it's like a pitcher in the dugout, right? Or getting ready to go out on the mound. You don't send him out cold without putting him in the bullpen to um, to warm up, right? And did you see here this um, end tip fell right off the end, so that's good to know, right? Tie the knot. I definitely put a seed bead on the inside, especially for this, because remember how I said at the beginning of the broadcast that silk thread compacts down where a comparable size in Ceylon, where'd my Ceylon go? I had a spool here a second ago. A comparable size in Ceylon might not want to compact down as much, right? Because it's a nylon thread. The silk thread is so slick, right? It just tightens up. And can you see how here, once I tighten that pearl, I came in, I split the threads, and I gave it one last little tug. Okay, so now let me add another bead. This one I'm just going to tie by hand. And then I come in and I tighten, and I'll do this again. We have plenty of skill builders, right, on our website on pearl knotting. We've done a lot of pearl knotting shows. Janice and I have one planned. We have some new pearls coming, so we're going to do a whole knotting show coming up. But I just wanted to show you how to use this thread. So see here, there's that size of knot. And see how you can really tell because the beads are kind of further apart there with the size F. I've got the E here, and the E will work with these as well, but it's going to give me a smaller knot. Okay, so no knot between the end tip and the first bead. I come in, I make that loop, and I tighten down that pearl. Split the threads and tighten. Let's put another pearl on. One of the tricks that I showed at the bead retreat was you tie your knot and then you put it down on your mat, and I come in, I slide my next bead on, and I use that bead to push the knot up into place. Do you see that? That's like magic. Try using the bead as the pusher. That really helped a lot of people when we were doing it. Then I slide this up, tighten it down, and slide that back. So let me show you. You can see how the knots in the blue are definitely larger than the knots in the white. That's the size E down there. Okay. Let me show you how I would use. I'm going to show you a couple of things. Let's say that I wanted to incorporate some check glass into this piece. Okay. I'm just going to come in and tie a regular knot. This is a melon bead that's coming up. We've got this coming soon. So I thought I'd give you a little sneak peek. You can come in. Let me tie that knot. Tighten it down. So a double strand of this F. See those knots? It's kind of hard to see in between, but that looks great, right? So I can use these smaller pearls with these larger check glass. But let's say I was making a piece that was check glass and I was using those large melons. And maybe I wanted it to have a little more of a vintage flair, or I really wanted to have it be a more thread forward or fiber forward kind of look to it. I'm going to go through, and this is just a tester. I'm going to use 4 strands, 2 strands doubled over. Okay, so I'd cut 2 long strands. So I'd have these 4 strands right here. Okay. And I'm going to tie that knot. Now this knot is a super fat knot. It is not, see what I did there, going through and pulling out that end tip. See that there? That's going to be good. So let's see what 4 strands go through. Here's that large hold bead. See, it just sails through there. See what I mean about how that silk thread compacts? Now, when you're tying with more than a doubled thread, what I do is I run my fingernail kind of down the threads like this so that my threads are flat. I put it through and then I pull it down and tighten. You can use that second bead as a pusher on there if you want. The thing about using 4 threads, though, you guys, you folks, is remembering that when you are tying a knot with 4 strands, sometimes you want to make sure and pull on each of these threads because one of the threads may not have pulled as tightly as you want it to be, right? So your thread will have like a little bulge in it, right? So here's this. I'm putting on this next one. Let's go ahead, tie that knot. This time I'll tie it with a tweezer. People always ask, inevitably it comes up in a broadcast, Kate, do you use one of those knotting tools? I do not. I find that it's more of a hindrance than a help to me. But this is the way that I've been knotting pearls for almost 30 years. Okay, so tighten down. Use that head of that tweezer to kind of pull this tight, pull that out. Now, see how the knot's a little further down here. It's kind of hard for you to see. It's a little further down, but I haven't tightened it yet. So I'm just going to push that knot away. It tightens and seats itself right where it should go. And see how I split those threads like this? And that coaxes the knot down the rest of the way. Now, when you string your beads, you guys, you want them to be visually tight, but not physically too tight, if that makes sense, right? You want it to look like there's no space in between, but you don't want to pull that thread down so much that these beads don't have any flexibility. Okay, and I think it was Terry, I think it passed by me, Terry. This is a twisted wire needle, kind of hard to see here, so I don't stab myself with it because it's flexible. Kind of hard for you to see, but it's just a little twisted wire, so it bends before it goes into, right? So this is a great way of putting it, Karen. The knot should be under tension, not the thread and the bead. That's exactly right. That is a great way to put it. And Karen, I'm going to unabashedly use that from now on, right? It's exactly right. So let me tie another one here. And what I also want to see is if on these 4 threads, I've got some more melons that I'm going to see how those fit. Split those threads, tighten that knot, okay? Let's use a 6 millimeter melon. Also has a pretty big hole, right? Slides right on. And see, you could really see those beads. This is a fiber forward piece for sure. And look at the color. I mean, those are kind of an olive green, but look at how nice the blue accents that, right? And so someone's asking here, what size thread is the best to use for shell pearls, the bigger pearls that have a large hole? I would double this up probably, but you can always check. Janice just answered this too. It's hard to say that's exactly right without the beads exactly in front. You could use the Ceylon, right? If you feel like that shell is a little bit of a thread cutter, the Ceylon might be better. Okay. So let me use one of these. I think that this pearl 4 going through this freshwater pearl is going to be a little small. Okay. Yeah. See, so don't force that down. That's not for this. But I also have some of these aged wampum beads. Look at how huge that bead hole is on there. You can knot with anything. You don't have to knot with fancy pants beads. You can knot with these are just those aged check. And making these little tester strands will show you. See, look at how nice that knot looks between those, right? I find that silk thread, Karen's asking, is it easier to knot with? I think it is. And it's so fluid. And the hand that it lends to your piece, like this is all strung on silk. So fluid, right? It's such beautiful drape. I like this, right? I love the way this looks. I do, however, knot with Ceylon. I knot with Ceylon quite a bit. But I love having this extra option with the silk because then um, you just decide what works for you best in this piece. Let's go to these faceted. I have a few of the faceted ones. I'm not going to cut this strand open because I might use it for a future project, but I have some of these green faceted ovals, right? And the from my beaded braid project. Let's see if they go. I'm going to tie another knot here. Let's see how they do on this doubled F. Okay. And again, I'm using the needle in size medium. Okay. So yeah, for this one, Cindy, I'm knotting with 2 strands doubled, so that gives me 4 strands here. And then here is just that single strand doubled over, so it gives me just 2 strands. Okay. Let me put this, yeah, look at that, just slides right on. And look at that blue. This blue, I think, is my new neutral. I love blue anyway. There we go. And open it up, tighten. Don't tighten it too much because, again, we want the knot to be tight, but not the thread in between the beads. So there we go. Can you see that little hint of blue that's right there, the knot? Right? Janice has this next tip. If you find that your pearl strand looks too tight, put the knotted beads between a towel or on the top of a towel and try rolling them back and forth. That will actually loosen up some of your knotting. They'll relax a little bit. You also don't have to super pull these knots real tight. You can kind of tighten them a little bit with the bead that's coming in front of it, like this. Ronnie's asking, is the drape different? It is a little different. The Ceylon is a little stiffer. On larger or longer necklaces, it's not as noticeable because gravity kind of pulls them down. But if you have a shorter necklace that you're knotting, sometimes it is a little stiffer. But that actually isn't a bad thing sometimes, right? Especially if you're knotting. Let's see, let me show you this. I mean, I knot with everything, you guys. Let me show you folks this. This is an old piece that I knotted a billion years ago. This is knotted, it's hard to see. It's knotted on 2 strands of Ceylon, so there's 4 strands running through there because these holes were so big. And see, it's a little stiffer, but not that much. And this Ceylon really is in the spirit of these old vintage beads, right? So you can really see that knot here in the piece. Plus, these beads are heavier, so I think Ceylon's a better choice because it's not going to stretch as much. Silk will stretch eventually, right? But can you see? There's that knot there. This necklace is probably 25 years old. Let me see if I have. I think that illustrates the point pretty well. Here's another necklace that I strung for me. I bought myself some fancy pearls, right? This has probably been strung for about 20 years. I'm guessing it's probably time to restring it. It's a cream pearl, and I definitely strung it on the ecru silk here. But I could go back and I could knot it in white. It would brighten the beads up a bit. It's probably time to restring this. The knots are getting a little dingy. You can see that there. But it's still serviceable. I don't see anything starting to wear. They are starting to stretch, maybe a little. So it might be time to do that. Okay. But this, I bought myself these pearls. I think I was at a gem show. I think it was, I don't know. I hate to deny myself anything when I'm bead shopping, so I did those. Here's my famous, I'll show you these. My 10 feet of pearls that I've strung. These have been strung for almost 30 years. And they're still in really good shape. Again, I knotted them with ecru. Janice is saying she loves to use her pearls with white because she likes her pearls to look super bright, right? I like my pearls to look like they're antique, right? So it's really just your own personal preference. We're also getting, if you can see this lovely little, what we call a fishtail clasp, we're going to be having a launch of some of these really nice sterling and gold fill clasps. Those are coming up because we are single-handedly going to bring back the fine art of pearl knotting to everyone. But these are really, they're still, the drape is still beautiful. But yeah, this is 10 feet. 10 feet of pearls. It's taller than me. I still wear it. I wear it all the time. I love it. Someday I'll restring it, but it's still in really good shape. So I'm not going to tackle 10 feet of those. Okay. Help me remember, JP, if there's anything else I'm missing. But let me just go over. You do know, right? We've got the bead cord, the griffin cord with silk. That's what we used for a lot of our knotting projects. That's what Janice used for this one here. She used the size silk, right? The size 6 silk for those. I would get this in a size 2, I'd get it in a 4, and I'd get it in a 6. So you have some options. I would get yourself maybe an E, especially in the white. This is the F. Here's the E. If you want something that's skinnier, you can dye it whatever color you like. But the size F doubled with the medium or the fine needle is where you want to start. Okay. I would say for Ceylon, if you're going to also kind of compare and contrast with Ceylon, I'd get the fine and try it out, and I'd get a um, a micro for both of those. Okay. Fine weight, it just depends. Like if we were doing fine with these pearls here, I think the fine would be too thick. Let me just check it since we have it, right? Um, how long of a fold over of silk do I have close to the needle eye? Usually we double our length and then you double it over to have that doubled strand, either 2 or maybe 2.5 times, depending on the size or the length. Um, the amount of knots is what I'm trying to say that are between the beads. If you're only knotting occasionally, you need less silk. If you're knotting between very small beads, you're going to need more because the knot does take up room. This is fine. Wait, here, I think it is. Let me double check. I need to compare it to all three. Yeah, this is micro and this is regular. So let me just make sure. Yeah, you can see regular, fine, and that's the micro. Let me cut a piece of the fine, put it over a needle, and let's just take a look. Okay? Because it's also a really helpful string material. Oh, Cindy's asking, she said, like you would thread the eye of the needle and have some folded over so it doesn't slip out. Cindy, it doubles all the way down through. Okay, so I double it through and I tie the knot down here. I'll show you. I'll double it through my needle, regardless of what kind of thread I'm using. It's like you're sewing on a button. So I'll have my doubled thread down here, and then I'll go through once, and I'll go through twice. I'll put on my end tip. I won't put an end tip on this one right now. But to calculate the length, let's say that we were doing a 16-inch necklace, I'd cut 32 inches so it was doubled, and then I'd maybe add about 8 more inches. Okay, so no, let me try that again. Sorry. 16 inches, I'd reel it off 1/16, 2/16, and maybe 8 inches, right? So I'd have 40 inches of thread. Then I'd double that over, okay? So I would be using that doubled length of thread. Go over to beadshop.com and download our pearl knotting handout. Janice linked it a little bit earlier. But if you go under learning or put pearl knotting in the search bar, you'll find it. That's the knotting handout that Janice used in her classes. So see, here's the fine. See how it's not coming through with this freshwater pearl that's so small. Visually, it looks about the same as this. Let me try and untangle it. It looks about the same as this F, right? But it doesn't compact it down like the silk does. Okay? So I could use these check glass. These will work, right, with no problem. And I knot it just the same way. Just going to do this kind of fast. Like that. There we go. See the difference in this size, how the knot doesn't compact down like it does with this strand. So the knots are larger. Okay. I've got some micro here. Let's just test the micro just for fun. But that's why you have to kind of pre-test, right? Everything. You wouldn't just jump in, try and guess about a thread and just start working it with your project. You have to do a little bit of homework twice through before you start the knotting. Here's that pearl. Yep, see, the micro goes on just fine. And then tie that knot. Let me use the pearl as the pusher because I did just a tiny bit of thread here. And the pearl, the silk will go a long way. It should say on the product page how much silk are on these spools. I don't want to get myself into trouble here. There we go. Okay. You can see that. Oh, sorry, my phone. Sorry about that. My phone cut out. Hopefully it's back. Yes, there it is. Sorry about that. There we go. It's just here. All right. So let me line all of these up. Some last looks here. We'll just do a quick review of what we've got. I used our new silk doubled here, right? This is the size F. I did it here, doubled. Here's the micro, doubled with the pearls. Here's a 2-strand of the fine Ceylon. Too big for the pearls, but works nicely with check glass. And then here are the 4 strands. Doesn't work with pearls, but it does work with some of these check glass that have larger holes. Now, Ronnie asked a question, and I'm going to show you this, and we'll show it to you again, but it's so easy to do. What if your thread breaks? Okay. I've got a few more minutes. Hopefully I don't screw this up. Let's say I'm pulling like this, and my thread breaks there. Okay. All is not lost. What I do here is, and I'm not going to do it, but I put a little bit of GS Hypo on this knot, right? Then I come in, and if I have enough thread, right, if it breaks down here, if I got enough thread, all I do is, if I have enough thread, I'll pull this tail down past where my beads are. I'll get another bead. That's why you want to have more thread than less. I'll slide this bead down so that this tail is down here. Whoops. I pulled it through. That's not what I wanted to do. Let me take it off here. It's slippery, so I pull my thread down, put my finger on it so it doesn't pull through. Slide this bead down, and then very carefully, without pulling this tail out, I'm going to come in, tie a knot above, and that'll just lock my thread back in. Later, since I've glued that knot, I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut these tails away. That's it. And you're like going, that's really it? Yeah, that's really it. Let's say that your silk breaks up by the needle. Okay? What I do here is I get another piece of thread. Now I haven't tied a knot here yet. Okay? I get another piece of thread and I send it through the eye of that needle. The needle is supposed to collapse down, so I'm going to get my awl. I'm going to open it up very carefully. See, now it's nice and big again. I'm going to send this single thread through like this. You know what? I'm going to do it with another color because you won't be able to see it. Let me use the ecru so you'll see the thread switch. I'm going to add that fresh thread. Can you see that? So here's where the thread broke. No knot there. Okay. Slide this on down. There are my tails. Slide this thread all the way through so it's close. I leave the broken thread out and I make a purl knot using one new thread and one old thread. Okay. Okay, so now I'll just use my awl this time. Walk this down. Make sure though that these tails don't go anywhere. Maybe I'll use my tweezers. Tighten that thread. Okay, so now there's my knot. So this is an old thread. This is a new thread. And this is about to become an old thread. I put some glue on this knot. Okay, GS Hypo. Pardon me. Then I pull my new thread, the tail of the new thread, down past this purl. Put on my new purl. and tie them together. Now, if you're doing this in all one color, you'll never know the difference. So see? So here's where my thread broke, right? It broke after I put it through this bead, right? So I pulled it up, added that new thread, pulled it down, knotted one new thread and one old thread together, then sent the needle through with both new threads, and then that old thread got knotted here, and now I have my two new threads here. Rewatch it, you guys, just back from this point, back it up, add that glue there, your GS, and come in. You could, and let that GS really sit. Pardon me. Clip all these away, and that'll never be noticed. Right? And now just continue on with your knotting. Right? One thing I wanted to mention when you're knotting with silk, you also need, or any kind of threads, and there you have it. There it is. I love that. Well, that was worth the price of admission. You get what you pay for. Totally. Pardon me. Let me take another drink of tea. Joy is asking, Joy, when would I use extra fine? We added extra fine just so you have that option. I would very rarely use extra fine. I'd use it on really, I'm trying to see if I have any here, really super small, like maybe these super small faceted stones that have really small holes. That's what I would use it for. Other than that, they get a little crinkly pretty fast. So the fine and the medium are my go-tos. I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to share, but I think that should do it, I suppose. Was there any other questions that I'm missing here? Oh, no, I did want to show you. Cutting apart pearls. Let me show you this. Once when I was doing a repair at the brick and mortar bead shop, a lady brought in some really beautiful amethyst beads. Some of you have heard this story before. And I was going ahead and I was going to re-string them. And as I was cutting it up, I wasn't really paying attention. I cut up the beads and I didn't fully show, or I didn't fully cut the knot as well as I should have. So when I went to pull the thread back through the bead to take the bead off, right? Part of that knot got stuck in the bead hole, and that was it. That was done. It was over. You cannot, it's very, very hard to get once thread is stuck in the bead hole to fix it. I always use this GS Hypo, always, for the thread. I just think it's the best. You know, you kind of have to play around with getting that tip back in there, but I think it's the best one to use. So if I'm cutting beads, and then I'm going to show you how to do the last end tip, and then we'll be done here. What I like to use is a pair of really sharp wire cutters. Okay. I'm going to come in and press those wire cutters up against the bead and pull the knot away from the bead so there's tension there and clip. I check my knot to make sure that the knot's intact. Then I can pull off the thread. But I really want to wedge that cutter right in there between the knot and the bead hole. Make sure that there isn't any extra thread left and then pull it off. Okay? That way you won't pull a little bit of the residual knot into the bead hole and then you'll be sad. Okay? For the bead tip on the other end, let me put a pearl on. Let me grab an end tip. We've surmised that these end tips, unless you're tying a really giant knot or you're using Ceylon, these are great for Ceylon, that the hole is a little big. So I'm going to put my end tip on. I'm going to put that size 11 bead on. Like that. Then I'm going to cut my thread away so that I have two tails. This is also where using two threads really comes in handy. So I'm going to tie a square knot right over left, but I'm going to go in twice and down into the cup. Left over right, down into the cup, going in twice. Nice and firm, not so tight that this doesn't have any movement, but coming in quickly, adding that GS hypo right on the tip. And that's it. That's it. Okay. And then let everything dry, cut away the ends, close this up, and you're ready to attach your clasp. That's all there is. So Leslie's asking, if a knot got stuck, would you be able to push it out with a needle? Not really. That thread just kind of goes into the needle and kind of expands. And some people are all, soak it. No, the thread just gets bigger with soaking. So you really, other than re-drilling that bead, which has a whole bunch of hazards in and of itself, it's just not feasible. So you really want to be present when you are cutting your pearls apart and not pull any little residual bit of the knot back into your hole. Okay. So that is it, friends. Let me get here. Thank you so much for joining me today on this live broadcast. Don't forget, everyone, that you can find us on all of our social at beadshop.com on Instagram, the Bead Table on Facebook, and hit that like, subscribe, and follow button on beadshop.com. Between Janice and I and Emily and our other occasional friends that join us, we have over 100 years of beading experience, especially here on our YouTube channel. We're in our 7th year of broadcasting live. So comb through those archives. There'll be a lot for you to learn. And today, of course, we talked all about how to use silk thread for stringing and knotting. You'll be able to find all of the products and the projects that we referenced today right on our website at beadshop.com. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletters for all of the latest news from Beadshop. We have some fun drops coming, you guys, so you don't want to miss any of that hilarity. Emily's going to be back with a new project soon. We've got some new stuff from Janice. On Friday, I'm going to be finishing the beaded braid, the closure for you, so you can see that. I also have, watch the newsletter. I've got some right over here. I've got a drop on Friday of 3 things that I think you're going to love. A couple of limited mixes that I think you're going to really like. So that's that story. I'm sticking to it. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was a really, I think, jam packed broadcast of a quick primer on how to use the silk. We'll be carrying the silk for as long as it's available to us. So if you do see that we're out, just go ahead and put yourself on that notification list. We'll get it back in ASAP. Also, do look for our plum and the green that are going to be joining us in our silk array soon. You can always watch the replay right on our website under our Facebook Live tab, or it'll be available for replay right on our YouTube channel. So thanks so much, everyone, and I'll see you on Friday. Thanks all. Bye-bye.